Welcome back to the Agville Podcast. This podcast is filmed in beautiful downtown Mayville, North Dakota. This podcast will be available via YouTube and, of course, anywhere you can hear podcasts. Special guest today is Mr. Spike Derrik Ellingson. I know him as only Spike. One time I actually had to ask someone, what's his first name? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Tommy.
So you came down here about a half hour ago and you're like, you really didn't know there was cameras.
No, I really didn't know there's cameras. I really just thought it was a podcast that would.
Well, it is a podcast.
Yeah.
It's a video podcast.
Well, that's the part that I wasn't aware of, but it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. I think I'm built for film.
You and I are built for film. Yeah. Oh, God. Well, you go, yeah, what do you mean we're filming? I asked our prior guest, do you need any makeup? He's like, you wearing makeup? I go, absolutely. He goes, I'm going to take a pass.
You got to look good.
Good luck. Good luck looking like that.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, Spike.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I met you about 4 years ago at a in Fargo at the USDA Ag Secretary was in town, Sonny Perdue.
Yep, I believe that's right.
We went to B-Dubs.
We did.
And
you brought some friends. We had some friends. It was good.
You and I split the bill.
Yep.
For a bunch of people who probably don't remember who paid the bill, but that's okay. And I asked where you worked or something. You said Ellingson. Then you gave me your card, and your name said Derrik Ellingson. I go, isn't that cute? They put your name on the card of the company you work at, and you laughed.
Yeah.
But I think you and your family have a wonderful, wonderful story. And if people are up in North Dakota, Minnesota, other states, there's a good chance they've heard of your company and who you guys are.
Yeah, they have. We're blessed. That's what I like to say. We are absolutely blessed. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, to be honest with you, to be a part of this third generation company that my grandfather started. So, some people know the story. Some people don't know the story.
Well, we got time.
I know you love the story.
The only thing stopping us is that after this, you're zipping up for a birthday party, and you got to put your trunks on, and you're going to the water park.
I do. My youngest is turning 7, so
happy birthday! You have to show her this and be like, look at Dad.
For sure.
You'd be like, does the camera make Dad look healthier?
Yeah.
It only adds 30.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Tell us the story from the beginning of how Ellingson Drain Tile started.
No, it's a fun story. So my grandparents grew up in northern Iowa. In 1960, they decided they wanted to leave the farm. We were farmers, and they moved up to southern Minnesota. So my grandpa looked around, looked to try and find where he could find a piece of ground that he could so-called homestead, and landed in Dodge County. And Dodge County is it's one of the smallest counties in Minnesota, but had a lot of tillable farmland, pasture ground, but it was affordable, so that's why they landed there. My grandfather Eldon, he's the one that bought the home farm and started looking at it and going, all right, we got to turn this stuff over. We got to turn it black. So we got out there and turned it black. And he's like, my Lord, this stuff is wet. And he's like, how do these people farm up here?
On year one or the fifth year of
year
doing
one,
it? Oh, okay.
I mean, he had to go right into it. So,
Mm-hmm.
we were obviously coming out of northern Iowa. We knew about drain tile, so we knew it existed. We knew the benefits of it.
Real tile.
It would have been clay tile, concrete
Mm-hmm.
tile, yeah. So it would have been in that era. Plastic was 1970, was some of the first plastic tile
Mm-hmm.
ever. And he said, I got to put some drain tile on this farm if we're going to try and farm this thing. There was one guy in the area that installed drain tile, so he hired him. And he finally made it there. And, of course, he shows up, and he's got half a staff and needed diesel fuel and all of the above. So he helped him out and got all done. He says, man, you're a pretty good hand. He says, would you ever entertain helping us out? And sure. So over the course of them following years in the 60s, Grandpa helped him out and kind of got to the point where my dad was graduating from high school, and he says, why don't we try this on our own? So 1970 is when Ellingson Drainage Incorporated and became a thing, and that's when it all started. And that was right at the transition of concrete tile to plastic tile. And I got pictures. I've seen pictures of my grandma right down there kicking them down the chute. You know, they were kicking them concrete tile together. So obviously for plastic tile to come about in 1970 was a game changer to the industry. And, you know, here we are in 20.
How much more labor is it to do? Is anyone using traditional tile anymore?
They are.
Okay.
They're still out there. There's still some guys that are still
They're
wheeling
kicking it
in
old
and-
school?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anybody's probably kicking it old school, but there's still guys that have integrated the plastic and accepted that, but they're still wheeling it in. And obviously the production rate is what is really the difference from the friction plowing and how we install it today and the amount of footage we can do today versus what they could do back then. Is there's, you know, obviously is what's been the changer. You know, I've got the opportunity to look at some old cue cards, you know, that my dad used to sell off of, and the prices aren't much different. You know, the materials were much cheaper back then, but the labor was obviously much more because they just couldn't go near as fast and could only get X amount of feet in per day. So today, you know, obviously we're, you know, technology, right? Technology has been a game changer for
I mean, you know where you are on that field within what, a 32nd of an inch, a 64th?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything's down to, you know, with GPS and everything today. I mean, you have to be. I mean, especially up here in this Red River Valley, it's so flat. You know, the average slope on a tile up here is about a 1/10 per 100 feet. So you think about that, a 1/10 of a foot per 100 feet.
Yeah, if you let a marble go, it's not rolling anywhere.
Yeah, so I mean, it's rolling. The water's moving. It works. It's proven, but
You got to be right. Yeah. So that you guys celebrated your 50th anniversary. That kind of got spoiled a little bit, all the celebrations by COVID and whatnot. But that was interesting. I had the chance to go out to corporate headquarters. Corporate headquarters are
West Concord, Minnesota. We're down by Owatonna and Rochester. That is the home base. That's where my grandfather landed, is in West Concord, just outside of there, and that's where the shop is. It's a new shop, so we weren't on the farm anymore, just on the south side of town. And then in 2000 is when Roger seen the vision to come up here to the Red River Valley, and he landed up here.
Yeah. And what do you think? I'm checking. We're 2022. What's changed in the last 22 years up here?
Well, I'd like to say that, you know, that people are obviously accepting that drain tile is a very key part of the farm and that they need it to, you know, help reduce their risk. But as days go on, there's a lot of days that we still have to educate. We're still fighting some water boards. We're still changing. There's still a lot of people that, you know, have these, you know, visions that, you know, drain tile increases flooding. You know, there's a saying that Mark Twain always said that, you know, water's for fighting over and whiskey's for drinking. And I like to use that a lot because I can tell you I've seen more fights over water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
I didn't understand that when I came up here.
22 years.
But I'd hear someone say they're draining into me. I'm like, what's that mean?
Yeah.
And there's some serious.
And it's a fractional amount of water. I mean, what most people don't understand is the amount of water coming out of that, you know, lift stations or what most people see, gravity outlets they don't see. But, you know, we're talking on a quarter of land, 1,200 gallons a minute's what's coming out of that thing. It's a fraction of what races down that ditch when it rains and off of a field and into the, you know, Red River where it ultimately ends up.
So Grandpa starts it by a need. And when I flew out there with you guys for the 50th anniversary, I had asked your father, Roger, is this good dirt? He's like, oh, yeah, Tommy, it's real good dirt. But it wasn't when we came here. So when I think of that area in Minnesota, I think of totally great, fertile dirt. But if you can't get anything in and you can't get in and get out, you got great dirt that's becoming unproductive due to Mother Nature.
That's right. You know, I mean, obviously there's a ton of great dirt in the nation to farm. And, you know, one of the biggest hindrances and risk is water, too much water. How do you remove that? And when you can take the water out of the soil profile, you can start focusing on the other things that can help provide bushels, right? Tommy loves bushels.
I'm in the bushel business, yeah. And, you know, the drought monitor, this podcast being filmed in the middle of October, but the drought monitor map came out today and 3/4 of the country's in a drought. That's today. Now, what's the saying you say about a drought? It takes,
you know, this saying is, it's great. And really at the end of the day, it's, you know, it just makes you step back and take a look. But, you know, we had a guy that used to work for us and he always said, he goes, it takes weeks and months to get dry, and it takes overnight to get wet. And if that ain't more true, I mean, I don't know.
That happened in this state. Look at how bad of a drought we had in, 21?
Hmm.
And in 22, we were planting soybeans still on the 20th of June, of which, by the way, did okay. Now, I'll sell a little tile for you. My clients up here, just south, we're in Mayville, North Dakota, but just south of Mayville in that Galesburg area, those clients who had tile were in 2 to 3 weeks before other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And when commodities are as high as they are now, which we didn't know was going to happen, Tommy Grisafi wasn't running around North Dakota saying, you better get tiled 3 years ago because commodities are going to double and there's going to be a pandemic and there's going to be a war and Putin. Nobody said anything like that, but all that did happen.
Mm-hmm.
So now the price of the commodities doubled, and the ability to, these are years when you have bushels these are life-changing years. And the old complaint I used to hear was it's expensive. But if tile costs, X to plant, and your land value went up 3X,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine as we filmed today in the First Bank Studios, which you had no idea why you had to come down here to do a vocal podcast. You're like, I could call you from my cell. They would give you all the money you needed to tile. So money, I'm not going to listen to that answer anymore, that there's no money in ag to tile.
Right. No, I mean, when we first came up to the River Valley in 2000, I can remember my dad, what you'd ask him, what are the things you're facing? Like, what are the hard things, right? And one of the hardest things was, when you try and come out and sell a $500 an acre system, and that's about what it was, probably back in, 2000, $500, $800. And how many times people told us, well, I'll just buy another quarter of land. That's all I paid less than that for the land.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard for people to wrap their head around that. And, but now fast forward 22 years, and you know how many times I've been told I should have just tiled it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Can we, yes. And I've seen that, and I have a client who's now taken over for a family, his family, and the father-in-law had been tiling, a friend of yours and client of you guys, good client of yours. I think they, say they tile a quarter every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we giggle when he's done with harvest and everyone's still going, when he'll be planted and at the lake and people still aren't sometimes in the field. And these are fields across from him.
Yeah.
He goes, you think they would know? It'd be like someone getting A's and someone getting D's and F's, and we all had access to the same information. Yeah. You're like, you think they would care? But I don't know. It's an education process.
It is, and it's real, and it still exists. I mean, there's still education that needs to be done. We need to do these podcasts. We need to talk. We need to, have test plots. We need to have projects, right? We need to continue to show the, not only the Red River Valley, but the rest of the world. And the rest of the world, they're seeing it. These problems exist everywhere. You
and I talked about that off the air. You want to talk about that a little bit? Because I had asked you, I was driving to work and you were working.
Yeah.
And I said, are they tiling all over the world? You said some really interesting things. Touch on those.
Yeah, and they are, but they aren't. They want to. And, it's always really hard to sit right here where there's just thousands of acres and plenty of stuff to do. But obviously, I look at it from two sides of the coin. We've been fortunate enough to obviously grow this business to be the nation's largest drain tile installer in the nation. Very blessed to have the team, the support, the staff to be able to do that. But, I have a 10-year work visa to China. They've asked us to come over there and teach them how to tile. Now, do I have intentions? No. But at the end of the day, did I go? Yeah, I went, right? Because I want to learn. I want to learn about the rest of the world and how things are done over there. We've been down to South America, looked at projects and consulted. As of this morning, I'm talking to some people in Colombia that want to know if water management will work on a 1,600-acre block down there. Mexico, these problems are everywhere. They exist everywhere. And then, not even outside that, but here locally, I mean, we've tiled in the Carolinas. We've tiled in all
Texas.
the I-states, Texas. We've done a bunch in Texas, California, Kansas. We've been all over and put projects in, and these guys are seeing, great results. And some are for different reasons. We don't, it's wet, but then there's also salts, and that's another benefit of drain tile that we can lead into, are the whole salts issue, and they exist and they're real, and they exist right here in the Red River Valley.
Do people in the I-states have salts issues?
No,
Or that's not something from home that I hear talked about a lot.
no, it's the river valley being a lake bottom. Obviously, we have salts in the soils here. There's soils that are deemed salty, that there's saline present in them. There's Bearden and there's Bearden saline. So they're same soil, just you got to get the salts out of them. And the drain tile's been had a lot of success in helping do that, flushing that out, reviving that soil for them.
Mm-hmm. And if someone wanted to put in tile, the timing of it all? How do you not go plant an expensive crop to tile? So up here we have a short window to farm. That's one. We have great dirts, right?
Yeah, we do. I tell guys it's there's a lot of wheat, a lot of small grains still up here. I tell most of our customers if they plant small grains, we'll guarantee it's going to get done. And,
Canola, wheat.
Yep, you plant in your canola, your wheat, your
flax, oats, something. Get something
that's going to get
quick
harvested
and get out. So you didn't not have a crop. You may not have had corn, may not have had beans,
and some of them commodities have been great these last few years.
Better, no, right? Yeah,
So
sunflowers.
Kind of been a win-win. Yeah,
but those are just coming out. I think.
Yeah,
they're not.
Sunflowers are late. They're like corn. So, but that's always the thing. There's only so much time, and obviously we got the same window as the farmer to put that in. So, anytime that can help, it's always helps us, and we can try and get as many acres done as possible, and keep everybody happy.
Like with every other great American company right now, labor's probably a problem.
Labor's a problem. Yeah,
I mean, if it's a problem at TGI Fridays, it's a problem at Ellingson.
We're very blessed. We got some hurdles in front of us. We're doing okay. We're getting by. We never ever get the bench full. We never have any bench strength.
We're playing with 8 players.
Yeah, we're playing with 8 players, but there's been some hurdles. Obviously, the diversion, is a little bit bothersome, and what happens there. And
talk about that a little bit if you want.
Well, the diversion, obviously, it's longer overdue. That these guys have been working hard to try and get it done, but now that thing's actually kicked off, these guys need to get it done in a quick hurry, and sooner they get it done, their money comes to them, and a lot of people probably don't understand, but half of that thing's getting paid for up front, and the other half they had to carry as a contractor. So, there's a big incentive for them to get it done and what it costs them. So. Wages, unfortunately, they have the opportunity to raise them and maybe be $10 an hour or so more above what maybe the industry average is, and it scares us. So far, we haven't lost anybody. All right, knock on wood.
Absolutely.
To the diversion, but
how big of a project is that? We're talking the Fargo diversion, right? Because there's people listening to this, driving, listening, watching. They're like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah,
the Fargo
moving a lot of dirt, right? But digging a channel around Fargo to divert the Red River, and
what would happen if they didn't do that?
What would happen if they didn't do it? Well, obviously you can see the years of flooding that's taken place in the downtown Fargo area. But we always like to say that if we could just tile everything, we would create a massive sponge. And some people say, well, it's frozen. Well, frozen ground is proven. They've done studies at NDSU that it takes water, it takes more than saturated soils. So, but it needed to get done. Obviously, it's a safety blanket for the city of Fargo for them to continue to grow. There's a lot of pros and cons to it. A lot of people weren't for it. A lot of people are for it.
But it is happening. It's going to happen.
You travel up and down I-29 down the corridor. Obviously, you'll see south of town. They're moving interstate, building bridges. Come north of town.
Yeah, I have seen that.
They're excavating north of town now, just on the east side of the river. So just by Argusville. So Argusville, I believe, will be just outside of the diversion.
I don't think people realize outside of Fargo, and we meet people from all over now, just starting these episodes, but I think they think Fargo's a little town that's sleepy, and it ain't sleeping.
No, Fargo ain't sleeping at all. I don't know what the population is total. I think it's about 200,000 total.
With Fargo and West Fargo, yes.
And
so
Moorhead.
Call Fargo with Moorhead even more than.
Yeah.
You're in the 250,000.
A lot of big business. I mean,
Microsoft.
There's a lot of really cool things happening right now. I had the opportunity to join the Grand Farm announcement yesterday.
Oh, yes. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, technology, obviously.
What is Grand Farm?
So Grand Farm it's a block of ground that it's a group that was started that, basically with a vision that, they want to continue to progress ag forward with also autonomous, right? So they want to be able to have, unmanned tractors and different pieces of equipment out there and drones and different things. So this will be a playground for all these tech companies to come in and work on trying to progress ag forward, right? Not only do we have a problem, obviously, with labor, the farmer is suffering. It feels like even more this year. I've heard more farmers of, 70-year-old men that have just decided not to run tractor anymore are really struggling to try and, get the crops off. And, obviously it's been a great fall. So I think a lot of them are getting by. But at the end of the day, it's just, got to get that grain off the field. You got to get it into the thing. And if you're farming beets, obviously beets at a whole nother level of labor. So I think, everything that's there, I think, everybody's got to support it to move forward. I mean, I know us at Ellingson, we support technology. We took our own oath here a few years ago, and we said that we want X percentage of our revenue to come from technology. So a lot of people don't realize this.
Yeah, please.
But
this will catch people off guard.
We have a staff of developers and a team, offshore team that's been developing. We are currently writing an app that will go to market here in 2023. And we're tied right in with John Deere. And, what we're doing is we're going to come to the market with the first ever water management tool, and that a farmer is going to be able to make at-field decisions with the data that they have. And we can overlay soils, tile maps, egg yield maps, and these guys are going to be able to see, what is happening at the ground level. We'll take that a couple step farther, right? We're already controlling, our lift stations with our phones. But what are the next things that we're seeing, right? Soil moisture probes. How can we automatically turn that pump on and off, right? How do we retain that moisture in the soil? So we're forward looking, right? We're looking forward all the time. We got a staff of people working on this stuff, trying to, continue to, at the end of the day, make decisions that will benefit and put more money back in the farmer's pocket for them. And we're excited about it. Obviously, we've kind of kept it under our hat. We've got a select few of farmers that are on the beta development team for it, and it's going to be a tool we hope that they can not live without.
And all this is to grow the bushel.
This is all to grow a bushel.
So in your mind, if we have a lot of people to feed in the world, as Ukraine got knocked out, it sounds horrible to say, but Ukraine war was it's just what it's done to the American farmer, particularly the North Dakota farmer, because we can grow all those things they were famous for growing. Sunflower obviously makes sunflower oil, canola and canola oil, corn, beans. They're not a big bean grower, but they're not. They're knocked out, and we're open for business. And it just happened. I mean, it's not to brag about, or it just happened. It's
real. I mean, it's happening. I mean,
Billy Joel had that song. We didn't start the fire.
Start the fire.
You want me to sing it? Take a
I didn't know this was karaoke.
Karaoke.
Karaoke, or is it karaoke?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But we didn't start the fire. We just happen to be another place in the world that can grow those things.
I mean, I know today that this is real, that there's a crisis, that there's a food shortage, that I do know that you can go in today and apply to have your CRP terminated early if it qualifies.
Okay.
So if the government is allowing, our American farmer to, tear their contract up on their CRP, I mean, to me that tells me, I mean, it's real. It's here. Right?
And then what they want to do in biofuels.
They want to do biofuels, yep.
Yeah, there's some wild things happening there.
There is.
Yeah, it's interesting, all the things up here, and we just happen to be able to grow all those things. We fit into the Ukraine profile. If we're going to need extra soybean acres, it's all the above.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really, I forget what they say, what the American farmer fed back in the 60s and what an American farmer feeds today. I think 100 and some mouths, Yeah,
it went from like 50 to it's getting close up to 175, 200.
Yeah.
Depending how you... Heck, we even grow all those products that are used. I always talk about on shows I'm on about how Beyond Beef stocks again today at new 52-week lows. But don't want to bash our lentil farmers or pea farmers up here. They're providing all 18 ingredients for edible burgers, and myself and yourself, unless you're going to hit us with the surprise that you're a vegetarian or something. But
no, do I look like a vegetarian?
No, but just covering all bases. So I didn't want them to have to do a lot of editing. Yeah, wonderful opportunity up here. I'm definitely bullish North Dakota and bullish what's going on. Tell us about the other part of Ellingson, the company that when we were at
Sure.
we was same day. You'd
Yeah, when you get a chance to visit West Concord.
not that day, but when Sonny Purdue was in, when we stepped outside when we were at Peterson Seed, and you're like, oh, we do this. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Sure.
That I was like, what are you talking about?
No. So yeah, the company, like I say, we've obviously had the great opportunity to diversify, and we know we need to diversify just because of the simple fact that, it started out with drain tile, right? That's all we did. We farmed and we installed drain tile. And then we quit. We didn't quit farming, but we just focused on the drain tile, and we had guys that we had to keep busy, right? So it started out where we were like, oh, we'll put septic systems in. So we started putting septic systems.
Makes sense.
Right?
Dig a hole, put a tank.
Summertime work, right? We can do this. We got backhoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, it's like, okay, what can we do next? So the next thing you know, we're looking at, we're just on the cuffs of, some of the lake areas. So we were up by Fairbolt, and they were going to put in a low pressure cluster sewer system. I'm like, well, that's a great job to build during the summertime, right? We'll buy a directional drill. We'll get into the directional drilling. This was back in the late 90s. From there, so 2000 was probably really when we started to look harder at different things that we could do to keep our guys busy. We bought a lining equipment. We started lining sewer pipes, homes, right? And fast forward to today, we're sitting with like 425 people, I think was on the HR report the other day. We have a union and non-union division of Ellingson. So we do play in the oil, gas divisions with our union guys. And our non-union guys, we do directional drilling. We line pipes. So we do a lot of small diameter commercial work for big customers like Miller Coors, Nestle, different people like that, going into factories and fixing pipes, rehabbing pipes. We also do, we have a utility division that's national, and we have a non-national utility
Like
division.
what happened here in Mayville where we got natural gas?
We do have a division that does that. That's on our union
Like
side.
a big pipe gets dropped off 8 miles down the road, but then you got to get it to
Our utility
everywhere.
divisions are doing more to support wind and solar. So we're plowing cable with our tile plows, doing that kind of work, taking our directional drills and punching underneath roads and all that good stuff. We also had an opportunity to buy an environmental company. So they're based out of Pennsylvania, is where their office is out of. But we have patented technology that we can actually drill down into an aquifer and knock off and then stream out back, 1,000 feet of perforated pipe and basically reestablish it. So we use it for different things. So we'll do like coal ash radiation. We'll actually put it underneath there and decontaminate. And we'll also take and we'll put it into aquifers so we can get more gallons per minute because the aquifer is probably too shallow. So that's like in an instance how we would use it. We would hit the aquifer, we would shoot out like 1,000 feet, and we'd knock off and we'd bring back, and we would leave a pipe underground so they can hook on and suck water out of there. So,
Did Grandpa get to see any of this stuff?
he's seen a little bit of it.
Yeah.
We owned the company when he was still alive. It was when my grandpa, it was always a thing. He was obviously very farm driven and ag driven. Whenever I'd go see my grandpa when he was in the nursing home, it was always, how you doing? How many tile plows you running, right? He was always curious. And it's at the end of the day, the family wasn't a real emotional family, but I could tell that through his questions, it was his way of how proud he was of everybody, right? So and you read between that. So it was a lot of fun, when we did. And we got him up here. We got him up to the valley, and he got to see the facility up here. So it was cool that we could make that happen. But
That's really great.
So-
That's great.
yeah, so, but no, back to the other question you asked. We're obviously blessed there. We have the union and non-union. On the union side, we have our big drills that do the pipeline work. So we're out on the different shale plays putting in pipeline, and then now we've started a gas distribution. So just like you touched on here in Mayville, we go into communities and we'll put gas pipe into homes and stuff like that. So
Yeah, energy is a hot topic. I mean, I remember a few years ago, farmers were able to buy a propane tank, fill it up, and then the price went up. The next few years, it paid for itself.
yeah,
And that now, I mean, energy is with, again, the war, just incredible. It's really expensive. It's expensive to farm.
what's propane today? I don't even know. I mean,
Natural gas the last few weeks have come down a lot the last few weeks, but it was really, really high. And you talk about drying costs. I have clients in that area where you originally were from, northeast Iowa, and they're like, well, our corn's 26%. We just kind of have to let it sit there. And they're acting like if they let it sit there, it'd be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we're up north. We kind of get it in the spring before we start planting again. It'll be all right. You might be feeding the deer a little bit, but it's so expensive to dry it that they're like, well, we're going to start. But
yeah, what is the moisture up here on the corn? I haven't even heard from these guys.
It's running well. It was. I was in a combine the other day in Mayville. I know the number. It was 17% here in Mayville.
So
just put it in the bin.
Passing it through and putting it right in the bin.
Put it in the bin. Put the fans on. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. Some's going to town.
Well, that's huge, though. I mean, you think
it's
about
a huge
that.
cost. Even
wow,
wet corn could cost you 50 cents a bushel. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you didn't have to drive down, that's more profit for the farmer. And the opportunities are just crazy. A lot of clients, I don't know what they're going to do with this money, but they don't like paying taxes. So that's why I like talking to you guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could tile. And they're like, that's expensive. I'm like, just give it to the government. Yeah, we'll call them. I mean, they hate to pay taxes. So
yeah.
And they can't buy equipment because we're out of equipment.
Right.
They're going to prepay for everything, and fertilizer is expensive. That'll take care of some of the money. So the whole energy thing plays into all this. And so you're kind of the vision, Spike, that we're going to farm the best, ditch the rest?
No, I don't. I think you'll see some stuff maybe get ditched, but at the end of the day, what can we do to make it better, right? Because what's it need, right? Break it down. Does it need water? Does it need the water removed? Right? Them are the two major things.
And we've been wet up here. We're going on year 35, right?
We've been wet, right? There's been some years that everybody talks about, but then everything changed.
Obviously, right? 21 was a horrible drought. That was not a wet year.
But, like I said, it happens quick. These guys, get it. A lot of guys, even if it's drouthy, I mean, we still get snow. Mm-hmm. It's still, there's always still a benefit in the spring for them guys to get in early.
An incredible amount of crops have been lost to too much water up here.
Absolutely.
It's not even, there's no one who's going to argue with you about it.
That's right. And I've never had a person tell me, that, well, that tile hurt my crop yield, right?
Right.
So a lot of people are like, is there times where maybe it didn't do anything? Sure, right? That it probably wouldn't have changed. But at the end of the day, it's not going to reduce any yield because it only removes the involuntary water. And that's what most people have to remember, right? So
we'll talk about that a little bit. I had asked you earlier today when we were driving to work. I said, have you ever installed tile in a quarter or section and they asked you to remove it because it just wasn't? I said, because in the restaurant business, I've had some food sent back and it was good food too. They just wasn't what they wanted.
No, nobody ever has asked us to do that. If there's anything that's ever happened is maybe something happens that you picked the wrong type of tile, right? Like maybe it should have had a micro slot, versus a regular perf, and maybe something hampers it. But that's all human error, right? Mm-hmm. The soil is the soil. So if you do your due diligence, right, and you look at your soil maps, and if you need to core it, you core it. And you pick the right material, right? Am I going to put sock in for the sandy soil? Mm-hmm. Am I going to put in micro slot? Or am I going to do regular perf in the heavy clays, right? You ward that off. But if there's anything that's ever happened, that's happened, right? Like it's happened to all of us where you might plow through a vein of something you didn't know was out there, right? Mm-hmm. This is a lake bottom, right? People got to remind people that this was, glaciers, how many years ago. So...
You can definitely see where you leave the lake and you go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're driving out of the lake bottom and you're heading for them beach ridges, right? They talk about them.
In this soil compared to soils around the world, 1 through 10 could be how good?
Oh, there's areas up here that are some of the best. And you get up by St. Thomas, I mean, there's just some darn nice soil that's out there. And there's soil all over. I mean, that's really good.
It's pockets here, there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it's they're all doing good, It's not like it's bad if it was bad and didn't grow something, right? I mean, it's not the case.
Put it in CRP or do something different.
Yeah.
There'd be cattle all over it, right?
Right, exactly.
When you start going out west and there's just cattle everywhere, that's not because it's 300 bushel corn ground.
Right. If it was, they'd have it tilled up.
Right. The future's interesting. Well, I gotta take a little commercial break here, but you were talking about the food shortage. We have some food here from our good friends and our sponsor, Colorado Jack.
All right.
Yeah, so that's for you. You can keep that.
Nice.
And give that to the kids. And also, what we do during every podcast is we offer out flags for farmers. something that started by a client needing a flag, and I gave him a flag, and I go, I like that idea. So people watching the show, if they get a hold of us, flags@agbull.com, we will send them a 3x5 American flag, and flags@agbull.com within the first 2 weeks of the episode release, because we're starting to meet more people.
Yep.
And people are watching. I've sent out flags to 8 states and Canada. I don't know. People are finding us up in Canada, and we'll do that. So I have a flag for you. You can keep that. Give that to your daughter. Tell her happy birthday. Dad bought you a flag. You can re-gift it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we thank the American farmer. I just think it's. I know they love America, and what they do is I send them a little note, tell them to click on us on all the social medias and apps and stuff. And I ask them to send a picture back. So I'm having people from all over the country who I've never met send back pictures with the flag, and it's fun. So Ellingson's famous for having a big flag on 29. It's currently under construction.
Yep, it is.
Going to get that fixed.
The cable broke.
Yeah, and it's.
I think they're at it today.
It's a big flag. How big is
110 feet is a pole, and then the flag we fly either a 30 by 50 or 40 by 60. So
I don't know if you just click on Amazon and get those. Like
you don't. No.
Right.
No, it takes a pretty healthy budget to run that flag.
That's what I've heard. How many flags do you go through on a windy year?
Oh,
6?
No, not that many.
4?
3 to 5.
Okay.
Just depends.
When that flag rips, that's a sad day, though. You're like,
well, we hem them.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're.
You're the hemmer?
No, we take them into Fargo.
Okay.
The big tarp shop there hems them for me. So
okay.
But there's a rotation. It's up, But boy, I tell you, it's a full-time job managing it. We're not supposed to fly it when it's real windy. Well, and I think everybody look out the window and we know what state we live in. So.
And then obviously you have to have an app because we're going half staff, full staff.
Yep.
Queen died, bring it down. This one, old dignitaries, and
we can't quite bring it. Just you got to stay a little above half. Actually, that flag touched the ground. Otherwise,
it's got that. It's that big. Yeah, it's got to be lit.
Yep, it's got to be lit.
Yeah, it's impressive though.
Most people ask me, how big is that flag? I'm like, 40 by 60. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, it's 2,400 square feet. Oh, okay. That don't seem that big. I go, I could cover your whole house with it.
You could.
They're like, oh.
Yeah, they're gonna. So it's like the giant version. It's a flag version of what's going on in Fort Myers and everything down there. Blue tarp roofs everywhere.
Well, Tommy, I'll tell you what. I appreciate this flag. You know what I'm gonna do with this flag?
Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to one of my crews.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put it on a pole, and I'm gonna fly it above one of my tile plows for you, and we'll get you a picture, and we'll get
that would be awesome. I thought you were ending the show when you said, "Tommy, I appreciate it." I thought you were going to the water park. No. Like, all right, everybody, that was Derrik Spike Ellingson, and he took his popcorn and his flag, and he has his suit on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, what else would you like to talk about? We can talk about anything. I think we. Is there any controversial things with Tayo, with the ducks, the birds?
There's always controversial, I'd have to say probably the most controversial thing is obviously federal wetland easements that are out there.
Talk about that, because I don't understand that.
So obviously years ago, federal government had people come around and buy wet spots on the farm. Sound like a great deal, right? Guy didn't have much going on, I ain't farming it, so why not sell it to him? But the repercussions of that today obviously are very devastating to the farmer. He's handcuffed. There's ways that you can, drain some wetlands if you want. You can mitigate, right? So you can drain them and move that wetland and build one somewhere. But when there's a fish and wildlife easement, you can't do nothing with it. You're handcuffed, tied up. You ain't doing nothing. So we've been working hard to try and establish them. The record keeping wasn't the best, right? Nobody's like, well, I've got 7.5 acres of federal, easements on your farm. Okay, where are they, right? So we as an organization have worked pretty hard to work alongside of, the senators and stuff to try and push the government to try and come up with a plan on how they can at least identify them. So at least that the landowner knows what's, where are they at out there, so we can try and be good stewards and not disrupt that. So that's probably one of the hot topics that exists out there. Obviously, governmental, overreach is obviously still is a real thing, right? The different, WOTUS and the stuff that goes on there from the waters of the U.S. It's real. So we're continually keeping our finger on the pulse there. it's been many years of battles in Bismarck to try and get this water law straightened out and get to the point where these guys, at the end of the day, nobody's going to make a decision to hurt anybody, and that's what I think everybody needs to remember. The Red River Valley farmer is not, or any farmer, so-called in North Dakota, is not going to just pile drive water across the neighbor's farm, right? It's going into a ditch somewhere where it runs when it rains, right? It's not. I see guys spend thousands of dollars to move their lift stations to put it into the right, tributary where it should go, even though maybe it doesn't run that way, right? It costs them more money to reverse drain it. So at the end of the day, most of these guys, it's, that's not happening. There's always, two parts, someone that doesn't understand it, or there's professional jealousy that seems to play a part in at the end of the day. So, we've tried to help lead that forward and keep the watersheds. One of the problems that exists in the state of North Dakota is that we manage our watersheds at a county level. We don't manage them at a actual watershed level. I think there's maybe...
That's why these guys, when they say I'm on the county water board, it's a big deal.
Well, right, and the county water boards, them are appointed positions for them positions, and at the end of the day, Tommy, we should probably be on them. But, what are we doing? We're working. It's, we hardly have time. We're, myself chasing young kids, still your, college, whatever, with your children. But the people that end on them, some of them are good. Some of them members are just doing it because they were asked, right? But it is what it is today. To try and change something like that would be a pretty big undertaking. But, at the end of the day, that's really maybe, I've always had a vision that the Red River Valley should be managed by, one governing group, but, maybe a couple of regional, an office in Grand Forks and an office in, Fargo, and maybe there's a satellite office, but it's measured more holistically, right?
And you also go meet on the national level, too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Do they listen?
Yeah, it depends.
Never know who's watching.
That's
okay.
Right.
Hey, a couple questions I wrote down. Number one, most unique job you've ever tiled. Like tell the listeners who are listening and watching, like, all right, I got one for you. We once tiled this.
We once tiled this. Oh man, that's a good question. You should have prepped me for this. I could have tried and thought of
I'll give you another question while we're doing that. Okay. Our friend has a podcast. Do you listen to any podcasts?
Yeah, I do. When I travel, I try to.
Okay. Our friend Jamie has the water table, which, so this is Tommy Grisafi and Spike Ellingson. I don't farm. I don't own ground. I listen to almost every episode of the water table, and I find it interesting. And you're good enough friends with him. What's he doing over there? I've been on the show. You've been on the show. He's educating people, right?
At the end of the day, that's all it is. I can tell you that the real motive behind the water table is to educate people. That's it. Educate people. How do you tell the story? How do you bring these people on? Talk about water. Obviously, it's a water-focused podcast, but that's all it is. And, it's telling the story, right?
And what line of work's Jamie in?
Jamie and his family, they have a construction company called Derrik Corporations, but then they also own Prinsco. And Prinsco's, one of the nation's largest manufacturers.
Black tile with the yellow stripe?
You got it. Yep. They've got a facility down in Fargo there. They also have facilities all over, the Midwest, California. But yeah, that's the real motive of Jamie's podcast, is just to tell the story and get people on just like you and I and talk about things and the traction that you get. It's just unbelievable. It's so easy today to be able to access, things via, your phone that,
right.
You, like you said, we got guys in Canada.
Yeah. I saw something on Twitter yesterday about, I don't know the number. It was a big number. How many people in the world? 7 trillion. I think it was like 3 or 4 trillion have it. I don't want to give a bad number, but the amount of people who have access to a phone that's more powerful than any computer you and I had as a kid, the world's went mobile.
It has.
And whether it be I had to shut my phone off for this episode because the episode before, like, I'll just put it over there, and it rang and it texted, and someone, my wife or kids or someone, spent something on Capital One, and then it doesn't stop. I mean, there's always notifications.
No, it's good and it's bad. I mean, at the end of the day, it's real easy to get the message out there, but
when we're talking about technology, Spike, this is still as simple as there's a piece of ground, there's dirt, there's either too much water or not enough.
Yep.
And we can handle the too much.
Yep.
And if it's not enough, then here's the number to the well guy.
Well, right. Obviously, North Dakota owns all the water, so they do regulate it quite heavily. But at the end of the day, it ain't going to hurt you. Put it in the ground. How do you reduce risk? Here's one of the number one ways to reduce risk.
Yeah, it's an interesting industry. Before I had ever met you guys and your family, I once spent the night at a hotel. I was driving from Indiana up here. I was at a hotel in Minnesota, and the hotel was full of people. I was probably not far from corporate headquarters or something, but there was a lot of people. I'm like, went to the bar, had something to eat, and got a drink when I got in town. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we work at a drain tile company. I had no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's no different than tile that comes off my gutter, where it's like, here, there's 4 foot. You want that tile there so you don't get water in your basement. It's that simple. We want the water to go down the road a little bit. And yeah, it's a small world. We come full circle.
It is.
Where do you see, you guys been doing this 52 years. It's a hard question, but think you'll be around in 50 years?
I hope
the
so.
business.
Yeah. No, I hope so. I mean, obviously, will I be around in 50 years? Maybe. I'll be in my 90s, but.
Will the business be here?
Yeah, I think the business is going to be here. I mean, this business is, I got kids, whether or not my kids will work in the business, I don't know. But, who knows? Maybe our employees will own it someday. I have no idea, where that takes us. But at the end of the day, it's never going to go away. We're never going to get the Red River Valley tiled. We're never going to get all the tile land.
Do you know what % of the Red River Valley is tiled, if you had to guess?
If I was to guess, maybe 6%.
Okay. So we have some work to do.
Yeah, I think there's 9 million acres in the Red River Valley. That's our company. So there's a lot of work to do.
And when you were a kid, you didn't say, you know what, when I get older, I'm going to move to Fargo. How'd that happen?
No. I came to Fargo, helped work Big Iron. My dad was traveling back and forth up here. So it was in about 2008.
Oh, okay.
So we built our shop in 2008. So we had a brand new facility along the interstate, and I stopped in there and just, I wanted to check it out because I was doing sales in southern Minnesota. That was my role down there. I basically, 2000, I came to work for the family. I worked in the field for, 2-3 years probably. And my dad said, I gotta work on the business here, so I can't do these sales things. So he asked me if I'd be interested in taking
your brother's involved in the business also.
Yeah, my brother's involved in the business. So
he'll watch the episode and be like, you guys didn't mention me once.
Yeah.
Great job.
No, my brother, he's a great partner in the business here. I stay, ag side, he's the utility guy. He's the visionary guy over there, diversifying the company. So it's worked well. We work well hand in hand together. So anyways, I was filling Roger's shoes as a salesperson. Let me tell you, them were some big shoes.
Talk about Roger a little bit.
20-some years old. My dad, man, he's been a great role model for myself, for all of us in the business. But he was just up here this week. He was up this week. He came up. He joined the Grand Farm announcement. So that was fun to have him on site out there. But, he wants to retire. That's obviously everybody's goals. Want to retire? Will he ever retire? I always say no. He loves work. He loves this. He loves this.
He's probably not worked a day of his life if he loves what he does.
He loves me. This is no different than myself. I mean, sure, he'd tell you the same thing. I tell guys, the day that I wake up and I can never, ever get enough stories of people telling me, right, man, I grew 25 more bushels, or, I farmed through that thing and rolled her from one end to the other, right? Like the success stories get us all out of bed. And I tell you people the day that I get sick of hearing that. I just love it. I love hearing it. How many more tons of beets they grew, or whatever that story is. It's so much fun to be able to provide our customers that service. So, and I think he's no different. He just loves getting right out there. We took it down. We opened an office down in Wahpeton.
Okay.
So we got a location down there. We're kind of using this we're opening these satellite offices, help support our sales staff, also support the community and try and drive some of the, hopefully some of the hiring, right, to hire local. So the initiative, that's kind of the initiative behind that. But yeah, we had a ribbon cutting, and he was in town for that as well. So that was fun to have him in town for that. And I see, he loves it.
I think that's the picture behind us right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at that.
So
perfectly timed.
But,
yeah, there we go.
So yeah, but my brother, like I said, he resides down in southern Minnesota, and he's the CEO of the company, so he's got his hands full every day in and day out. But I'm pretty blessed up here. We're working on handing some things off and trying to work on the business instead of in the business every day. So
Yeah, it'd be hard to do both well.
it is hard to do both well, and that's just it. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time on the road traveling. I got a tile plow in California. I've been spearheading all that out there and take care of all the national stuff.
Maybe that's our story, our good story for the unique tile job.
Well, yeah.
What are they tiling out there?
So they're developing orchards out there. We're tiling outside of Stockton. There's a big flat area out there that's actually at or below sea level. It's very unique.
Was that what we're talking about at Detroit Lakes, that area that had water with Paul, our friend Paul Neefer? He said or was that in Washington? He goes, there's this area of Washington, and you and your dad are like, oh, I've been up there. That's crazy.
It could be.
That they had like a permit for water, and then they pulled the permit, and they were instantly out of business or something.
Yeah, that's happening, and that happens out in California. Obviously, water.
Shocker.
Yeah,
shocker.
This area obviously has old water rights, so that's why it's booming. Right, they're taking things out of row crop, and they're putting in trees, planting almonds, walnuts, pistachios, olives. A lot of olives out there too. But it's cool. I tell people if you travel out there, it's going to be the closest thing you're ever going to get it to, one of the 7 wonders of the world over in, why am I drawing a blank?
That's right.
Holland.
Okay.
I've been there. I've been to Holland. I've been blessed enough to go over and see it. But where the channels the water's running above you, right? This is the same thing. They're sailing ships up these big channels.
That you're looking up at water and the ground's down here?
Full-blown rivers above you. Yeah, you'll be 25 feet below that channel of water. So I tell people it's as close as they'll get to go into Holland and seeing Holland at, being...
Yeah, those boys know how to move water.
They do. So yeah, that, I'll tell you, we'll use that. Probably one of the coolest things we've done, and we made a little video of it. It's obviously not public, but we tiled an almond orchard, so that was really a cool experience. This guy's trees were dying. He's like, I never put tile in beforehand. He's like, I need to put tile in. So yeah, we had to, we had the tools, run the onboard reel and string it off. It was very challenging. There was water lines out there that we had to dig up, cut. But then we got some really cool footage of tiling through blossoming almond trees.
And it went well, I bet.
Cool. Yeah.
You guys aren't scared to try new things. I like that.
No. I'd say one of the other coolest jobs we did was
there you go.
By one of our growers let us tile through his potatoes, and he just left what did he leave? A 10-foot wide unplanted strip right where our tile lines went. And then we got to go in there in the middle of summer and tile it. So that was really cool. He wanted to get it done. He says, I know the benefits. It's going to be great. I'd rather just move them acres somewhere else. And he left a little strip, and it was a win-win.
Yeah.
So we got some pretty cool footage of that too, tiling through that.
Yeah. Well,
so
we could go on and on and on, but I don't want to take any more time from your daughter.
Yeah.
Anything you want to finish, or anything that we talked about that you're like, I was thinking about something. Sometimes when we do this, we have a plan for what we're going to talk about, and then all of a sudden the lights start going on.
Yeah, no. I don't know. There's obviously, maybe we'll come back and be a guest again.
That'd be great.
There's lots of stuff.
We have to order more chairs. We have plenty of mics and stuff, but we have to get the whole chair thing down.
But I'm going to get that flag out on a crew, and I'm going to fly that thing. And
I would appreciate that, yeah.
Get that picture taken.
We'll post it, and we'll do this again. We'd love to have your brother, your dad, and the good folks at the water table. And how do people get a hold of you? I look at your Facebook page.
Yeah, obviously you can find us at ellingsoncompanies.com. So you get to there, you can get to anywhere. So.
And little links at the bottom, click and this and that. But
we're linked up everywhere.
Last
just
funny
like
story: you and I and your father were at Detroit Lakes, and we're at a bar. What's the name of that bar at the Holiday Inn?
Beach Club.
Beach Club.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people came back from another place. And they had been out a little bit, and they looked at you and your dad, and they said, "Who do you guys work for?" And you go, "Oh, we just work for Ellingson." "Oh, yeah." And they looked right over it. They never asked your name or anything else. Just, "Who do you guys work for?" It's a good place. Yeah. What do you guys? Yeah. That was it. And I'm looking, going, man, you should have asked them their name. They had your undivided attention, Roger, yourself, and myself, and I'm like, yeah. But they wouldn't know, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
You're humble.
Yes, about Roger. Yeah, humble's a great word.
Oh.
My dad's one of the most humble people you've ever met, and you just, like I said, and I think it's rubbed off on myself. It's all good. Yeah,
it's good stuff.
We try to fly under the radar a little bit, Tommy.
Oh, I like it. You're helping people, and I'm seeing it. And from my own selfish perspective, I can do a lot better job helping people with markets if they have the bushels.
Mm-hmm.
I can't market PP. I can't market government payments. What's done's done if you don't grow it. But in this world, the few years before and the next few years are make it, break it for decade or a generational wealth effect. And
That's right.
it's really important to have your ducks in order and keep educating people. I got to keep educating people. And I think originally when we met, we're going to do meetings together. Like you talk markets, we'll talk tile. And then the world just got goofy and we've never got to that.
It did get goofy.
Yeah.
We'll get back there.
Well,
we're going to get back there.
One flag at a time.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Derrik Spike Ellingson from Ellingson Drain Tile. We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, sounds great.
My name's Tommy Grisafi, and I'm bullish agriculture.